Right, so hello and welcome. As I said this morning, we are going to be unlocking the lucrative GCC market for Africa. My name is Natalia, and I'm delighted to be hosting this webinar with my colleague from the Travel Lifestyle Network, Isabel Tapp, who I'll be introducing you to shortly. As many of you know, the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC countries, have been making significant strides in the global tourism industry. Certainly for us here in South Africa, they are an important source market. And Isabel's going to be delving a little bit deeper into the potential that they represent for African tourism experiences, products, destination, and what the market demands. You all know the drill. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to add them to the Q&A folder at the bottom of your screen. So the questions come in at the Q&A folder. The chat, as you have seen, is open. So please do feel free to let us know where you're connecting from. And we are recording the session and we'll be sending it out along with some additional resources after the webinar. So with that, I'm going to introduce my colleague Isabel Tapp, who is the founder and CEO of All Details. She is recognized as one of the most influential communications professionals in the GCC region. And Isabel's journey to the top began when she was only 18, working in a luxury five-star hotel in her native home of Malta. Following an invitation to set up the PR department of an iconic hotel group in Dubai, Isabel has gone on to work alongside some of the world's most prestigious brands, including Mandarin Oriental, Hertz, and Expedia Group, amongst many others. She also serves on the steering committee for 30% Club MENA, which champions better representation of women in senior level positions. And she is trusted for her exquisite taste, and she really does have exquisite taste, and impeccable standards, and the passion that she brings to each project that she executes. Isabel, I am going to hand over to you, if I may, to take us through this morning's session. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Natalia, and thank you for your very kind words, introducing me, and for everything that you and your team at Big Ambitions have done to make this webinar possible. So, as Natalia has mentioned, my name is Isabel Tapp, and I'm the founder and CEO of All Details, which is a boutique PR, marketing, and communications agency based in Dubai, covering the whole of the GCC region. I think Natalia's already said quite a lot about me, so I won't go on too much. But basically, I came to Dubai with an invitation from the Jumeirah Group to launch the Burj Al Arab, which is the beautiful, iconic property you can see there in the picture, in 2000, so 24 years ago, and to launch Burj Al Arab across the world, and to help it become the icon that it is today. I have been here ever since, so it's very difficult to leave Dubai once you actually get here. My company, All Details, is very much focused on building the reputation and awareness of destinations, luxury hospitality brands, hotels, across the globe, and developing the GCC traveler market for those properties and brands and destinations. So, what is the GCC? I think a very simple explanation of what the GCC is all about is to reference it to something very similar to the European Union, to the EU. It's basically a cooperation council that was founded in 1981, I believe, yes, 1981, and includes Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and United Arab Emirates. Now, the United Arab Emirates itself has 7 emirates, of which Dubai is the largest. However, it is not the capital of the UAE. Abu Dhabi is the capital of the UAE. We have a total population across the GCC of 56 million, with a total GDP of $324 trillion. Now, a lot of people around the world would think that the majority of travelers from this region are the local Arab nationals. However, that's actually very far from the truth. And I will explain why in the next slide. In fact, the population of the GCC breaks down into 3 distinct groups. You have the GCC nationals, You then have the non-GCC Arab expatriates who have come to live here from different parts of the Arab world. And then you have the Western and other expatriates. Looking at this slide now, I think you'll see something which is very, very unusual in probably most other parts of the world. And that is the percentage of expatriates that live in these countries. If you look at the United Arab Emirates, we have 88% of the population are in fact expatriates, with only 12% of the population being UAE nationals. I don't think you'll find that anywhere else in the world. Similarly, in Saudi Arabia, with a population of 37 million, it's the largest country in the GCC. Expatriates are 42% of the population. Similarly, with the other smaller countries, such as Kuwait with 68%, Bahrain with 52%, Qatar with 88%, and Oman with 53%. And what this means is that we have not just one target market, but two very distinct target markets. And that is the Arabs, the local Arabs that more often than not are extremely wealthy, particularly those in the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Those are the three wealthiest countries. So you have the local nationals who have their own distinct characteristics and travel patterns and trends, and then you have the expats. Now, this is something that I think the travel industry outside of the GCC perhaps don't have a great deal of knowledge about, and tend to think that if they're doing any PR and marketing in this region, it has to be aimed at the Arabs. In fact, that's totally untrue, because you have two very distinct types of travelers. So let's take a look, first of all, at some of the numbers, which are actually quite incredible. And that is that by 2033, GCC travelers are predicted to spend $176 billion in outbound travel. They also spend 6.5 times more per trip than any other region in the world. We also have a prediction of 158 million outbound journeys by 2034, with most people traveling multiple times per year. And with the GCC nationals themselves, they tend to travel in large groups of multi-generational groups. So grandparents, parents, kids, aunts, uncles, nannies. So they're traveling in very large groups, as opposed to the expat families. So if we look at some of the trends, you've got Gen Zs who are spending perhaps less money and time traveling. However, they focus on environmentally friendly vacations. Millennials are looking at luxury destinations. And Generation X are actually the majority of the outbound GCC travelers due to the level of income, age, and familial status. Gen X will be responsible for 41%, which is $11.1 billion of Saudi's total outbound travel market. In fact, Saudi has a very young population, and they are very digital friendly. They spend a lot of their time on social media, on digital trends, and they are a huge potential market as they come through. Here you can see the actual rise in spend in travel. From 2015 to 2024, we've gone from $40 million to $75 million, and predicted to increase in 2034 to $158 million in overseas destination travel. As mentioned earlier, the spend is actually extremely high for the GCC traveler. They tend to spend, as an average, 6.5 times more per trip than any other traveler in the world. Very interestingly, we have completely different trends between the local nationals and the Western expats. The local Arabs tend to travel to a particular continent, and then they will spend a long period of time in that continent, and they will travel from country to country within that continent. Very often they will perhaps during the summer months, when it's a very long travel trip, sometimes up to 2 months, sometimes even longer than 2 months. They will travel, they'll take the older generations with them, they'll leave the older generations perhaps in one destination and let them rest there, and then the younger members of the family will actually travel around to more adventurous experiences, and then come back to pick up the grandparents on the way home. The size of the trips, the size of the groups is actually very large. As mentioned earlier, they'll take parents, kids, cousins, aunts, uncles, nannies, and they will stay in multi-bedroom villas or take multiple villas. If they are in large cities, they'll very often take a whole floor of a hotel and make it their own for a number of weeks. During the summer months, which for us is from mid-June to mid-September, they will take very long vacations, and that's to get away from the heat, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Western expats have completely different trends, although they still travel just as much as the locals, but they will travel for shorter periods on perhaps a more regular basis. And again, we'll come to see the reasons for that shortly. They'll travel in smaller groups, so it's couples, one family unit of parents and kids, or a small group of friends. They will take multiple shorter breaks during the working year, which is from September to June, and a much longer vacation between mid-June and mid-September. Here you'll find some statistics of the number of travelers traveling once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year, and I'll let you have a look at that in more detail when we share the presentation with you. So the local families will travel with up to 4 generations on long trips, traveling in groups of 20 to 30 people. Western expats in smaller groups of 2 to 5 people. Now, coming to the key travel dates, you have 2 Eids. Now, for those people who don't know what an Eid is, it's very similar to the Christian Easter, for example. However, the date changes every year, and it goes backwards 10 days every year. So there are 2 Eids per year. The dates in 2024 are in March and July. So we've already had 1 Eid, and we're just coming up to the second one. You then have the very long holiday of the summer from June to early September, the Christmas and New Year holiday, which is again a fairly long holiday, although not as long as the summer. And then the National Day holidays. The National Day holidays differ, the dates differ depending on the country, but very often you'll find some countries like Saudi Arabia, they may have as long as a whole week off for a National Day holiday, which means that combined with the weekends will give them a 10-day holiday. So again, people will travel overseas during these holiday periods. One of the reasons that people living in this region travel so often is because of our geographic location. We are basically stuck a little bit and not able to travel anywhere by road or by rail. Trains do not exist in this part of the world. They are actually building a train network, but we do not yet have a functioning train service. So the only mode of transport to get out of the region and have a break, particularly in the summer when temperatures go up to over 47 degrees centigrade, is basically by air. And because of that, most people will not hesitate to jump on a plane and get away for a break several times a year. We are fairly central as far as traveling to various parts of the world are concerned. And in fact, 3/4 of the world is within an 8-hour flight of the GCC countries. So the weather, we can't talk about the GCC and not talk about the weather. So the weather in the GCC is very much split into 2. You have winter and you have summer. Winter is very temperate, it's very pleasant. with sunshine and very reasonable temperatures of 25 degrees centigrade. And that's really half of the year, from October until May. However, the summer is not very pleasant, to say the least, going up to temperatures of 52 degrees centigrade, which is 125 Fahrenheit, for those people who are working in Fahrenheit. And that's really from starting around May right through to September, to the end of September, sometimes even going into October. Now, with global warming, we have, for the first time, I believe, this year, I'm having lived in this country for 25 years, for the first time this year, I believe we are starting to see the effects of global warming. And normally, average rainfall is 1 or 2 days a year in the winter. And we had several storms this year, including the very big one in April, which I think you've all seen on your news channels around the world, where Dubai was flooded, including the airport, and many homes and businesses were flooded, and the metro station was flooded. So this type of weather is totally unheard of in this part of the world. And for the first time, we are very much seeing the effect of global warming having an effect on our climate. The hot temperatures of the summer means that when the schools break up, which is around mid to end of June, until schools restart again in the beginning of September, then everybody tries to get out for as long as possible. Now, the wealthy local Arabs who do not need to show up to an office job every day of the week will take off for the whole of the summer. So they'll take the entire family and they will relocate to another part of the world for the whole of the summer. People who have a job and need to show up in an office will take shorter vacations, but they will still try to get out as much as possible during those times. We are very fortunate to have AC in our homes, in our offices, in our cars, but you are literally living for 6 months from AC to AC to AC. And not able to actually go outdoors at all. So you do start to feel a little bit of cabin fever and need to escape to some cooler climes. I think this is one of the perfect things of South Africa and Southern Africa, that you are actually in the Southern Hemisphere and that our summer is your winter. So absolutely perfect to get away from the heat. So we've mentioned the school holidays as well. Let's talk a little bit about the economic impact and the income levels. So I think everybody knows that the local Arabs are very wealthy due to the oil and gas that is found in the region. Qatar has huge reserves of gas. Abu Dhabi has oil. So has, of course, Saudi Arabia, which has the largest oil fields in the world, with Aramco, the largest oil company in the world, based there. So the locals are extremely wealthy. And in the countries that have very small populations of locals, such as UAE, then the majority of locals are wealthy because there's a very small population. Therefore, the money is only going around to a small amount of people, and they have a lot of support from their government, from the government. Therefore, they have huge amounts of disposable income. They are also used to a very high level of luxury, and even the expats who live in this region are very used to a very high standard of living. So when traveling, the majority of people will be looking for luxury accommodation and luxury experiences. Although post-COVID, there has been a shift towards travelers looking for new experiences, connecting with nature, being in the outdoors. So this has been a trend which has been growing very much since COVID, the connection with nature and experiencing the outdoors. So the majority of travelers coming from this region would be looking for 4 to 5 star luxury accommodation. They will travel for absolute minimum of 2 leisure trips per year, of an average of 10 days per trip. 61% will not purchase a package holiday, but will actually put their own travel itineraries together themselves. And a lot of them will book independently. We do still have a travel agent and a travel trade market in the region. It does exist, and we work with them on a regular basis. But the younger generations do tend to make their own bookings on their phones, straight to booking.com or straight directly with the actual destination. There's a growing rise in the interest in sustainability and eco-friendly travel. This is growing very quickly, as well as 58% of travelers are prioritizing not just relaxation, but also experiential travel. AI is becoming very big in the region. A lot of travelers are now 52% are actually using AI to help them plan a trip and to help them plan their itineraries. And slow travel is becoming more important, is staying in one destination longer and connecting with the communities and connecting with the culture of the country that they are staying in, rather than just flitting through the country and moving on to the next. So that's a growing trend, as well as eco-friendly and sustainable travel. Something quite new as well is the rise in solo travel. We've seen that this is also starting to become very important, with wellness, rejuvenation, and connecting to nature also becoming very important. So what is luxury to the GCC traveler? Service is very, very important. And with the local population, the local GCC population, they tend to expect to have service when they need it. So if they decide that they want to have a meal at 11 p.m. at night, then they expect to have it. So this is something which sometimes gives the Arabs a reputation of being high maintenance, perhaps, if that's the right word to use. But it is because they can get that at home. They have it at home. Most of them have staff in their homes, and they can have that service 24/7. So when they're traveling and spending high amounts of money in luxury hotels or luxury properties, they do expect to have the service when they want it. We are also used to a lot of space. So we like large rooms, large villas, large living spaces, large open spaces. This can be challenging when traveling to Europe, where you have the old buildings with the little rooms. But I don't think it's such a problem in Africa, where you also have lots of very large spaces. The GCC is actually known for its warm hospitality, and the same is expected when they travel. So they do like to receive a warm hospitality, and they like to interact with the locals and with the culture that they are staying in. And because the Middle East and the GCC is known for its high levels of luxury and availability, travelers do expect to have this level of service and luxury when they travel. So what do they look at when choosing a destination? As we mentioned, a high-end accommodation. They're looking for natural landscapes, cooler temperatures in the summer, a range of activities for different age groups in the family, with options for small children and teenagers, friendliness of the country and the people. Gastronomy is very, very big. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, Doha are now centers for some of the best restaurants in the world. Therefore, when they travel, they are looking for good food. They are not necessarily looking for Arabic food. They do appreciate having an Arabic meal every so often. However, they are very international in their tastes, and they enjoy good food. And they do like to experience the local food as well. They're also looking for unique experiences. And post-COVID, this has become very, very important for people to travel and go through new and different experiences when they're traveling. So I won't go through every slide of this, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background as to why Natalia and I decided to hold this seminar. And it's actually because I have a great love for Southern Africa. I have traveled to Southern Africa a number of times. I love all of the countries in Southern Africa. I have traveled around quite a bit, and I do have a passion for it. And I also wanted to share with you that I worked for 4 years with Wilderness Safaris, and traveled around Southern Africa with Wilderness and stayed at a lot of different camps, where I fell in love totally with Africa. And so I mentioned to Natalia that I had a great passion, and she came up with the idea of holding this seminar. So we spent 4 years working with Wilderness Safaris, and this was at a time when safaris were still really, we were the first people to start talking about safaris in the GCC market. So it's a few years back. And I believe that we were the first company to start talking about offering GCC travelers, to giving them the idea to travel to Southern Africa. So I'll let you read through all this. It's a very nice testimonial from the client, our objectives and actions, some of the beautiful features that we obtained in the GCC media. And the results were over $1.3 million worth of advertising value, over 200 coverage clippings across print and online publications. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Isabel. That was really valuable. I'm going to fire off some questions at you, if I may. And if you do have any questions for Isabel, please feel free to add those to the Q&A folder at the bottom of your screen. Very interestingly, let's actually start with this this different kind of source market that you're targeting, because if you are having to do, let's say, a campaign for a large group or a group like Wilderness in the GCC, you really are trying to market to two very different audiences. So do you run two campaigns at the same time, or do you pick a particular source market? So instead of doing the entire GCC, you might just do the UAE. How would you tackle those two different audiences if you were trying to reach the GCC market?
Well, first of all, we would sit and discuss with the client what products they're trying to market, because of course that's very important to help them decide who they should be targeting in the GCC. So if it is a product that is interesting to both the local Arabs and the expats, then we would run two simultaneous campaigns running along the same action plan. So for example, if we took a particular topic and the topic was relevant to both the Arab market and the English market, then we would distribute the same content piece, both in English and Arabic, to the English and Arabic publications across the whole of the GCC market. If it was a particular story, for example, that was really more targeted to the local Arabs, let's say, for example, a safari camp had a large residence with 5-6 bedrooms that was perfect for an Arabic family, then we would target the Arabic publications in Arabic and pitch directly to the Arabic media, because it is a topic that would be of particular interest to Arabic families.
Okay, so the media, I've always had this perception, certainly in the UAE, I'm not sure about the rest of the GCC, that the media are quite spoilt there. So it's very hard for you to get publicity in media. Is that correct?
They are extremely spoiled. And that's because I know media all over the world are spoiled, but they're spoiled on a different level in this region, particularly in Dubai. Before Saudi Arabia started its big campaign to open up to the world, and Doha was still extremely small, Dubai was really the front runner in opening up the GCC to the world. And so majority of the international business, the international media houses are all based, the head offices are all based in Dubai. So for example, Condé Nast Traveler Arabia is in Dubai. Harper's Bazaar Arabia is in Dubai. So now that Doha is very much growing and it's also a very rich country. Qatar is a very rich country, and Saudi Arabia is on such a huge drive to open up to the world. Some of these publications are also having spin-offs in those two countries. So, for example, Harper's Bazaar will have a team of journalists based in Riyadh, and they may have one person based in Doha. So yes, they are extremely spoiled, to put it mildly. However, because we have been operating in this region for over 20 years, and we have really fantastic relationships with the media. Also, because we have worked with some amazing high-end properties all over the world, and we send them to some beautiful places. They are our friends. So we are able to actually talk to them and negotiate with them and place some beautiful features in their publications.
But the hook is always luxury. So your product needs to be at a certain standard to attract both of those market segments, the Westerners and the local Arabs.
It needs to be high end. The actual experiences themselves don't necessarily need to be high end, but then they need to come back. So, for example, if you had an experience that was extremely experiential, a walking safari tour or something a little bit wild, then that's fine. But they need to come back to a very comfortable room with service, with all the facilities and all the services. So that is expected because back home they're living in a very high standard of living. So they don't tend to wish to lower their standard of living in terms of their living accommodation, but they will go out and experiment on experiences.
Okay. And you said with the summer travel, that is generally when people need to go because it's so hot. Do you have any idea of the booking window? So how far out, if I was trying to target both of those market segments to travel to Africa, how far out would I need to start marketing or raising the visibility of my product or experience?
Well, it's not if it's a brand or product that has not previously done any PR in the region, then you need a few months of raising awareness of that product and what it can offer. I would say the ideal time to start would be around September, because then it would give you the whole of from September right through to June, in order to get as much media coverage as possible. Also gives you an opportunity to start, because we have a very small pool of media. So you have all the luxury brands, not just tourism, but all the luxury fashion brands, all the jewelry brands, all the private jets, all private yachts. Everybody's trying to talk to the same media. So you can imagine how spoiled they are when you only have 2 or 3 people sitting in Harper's Bazaar, for example. Or two people sitting in Condé Nast, and they're being offered everything. So you need to start very early in order to say, but we don't only have the summer travel to look at. We've got the New Year travel. We then have two Eid holidays, which, as I mentioned, move backwards 10 days every year. So people will travel for Christmas and New Year. They'll travel for the 2 Eid holidays, and they will then travel again for the summer. So it's not only the summer window you have to look at. You have at least 4 or 5 different windows to look at in terms of the travel. So you really would need, I would say, ideally at least a 6 to 9 month lead up campaign to raise awareness of your brand.
Okay. You've mentioned media quite a bit. You also said that there was this focus, especially in the younger generations, that's true here as well, using digital platforms. What are some of the platforms that you would recommend ensuring that there's visibility? So media is one. Where else do people get their information from?
Influencers on social media. So that's also huge. Also, I mean, the media all have online versions, so they're still reading it. They're still reading it on their phones at the end of the day. So the media will still have all their newsletters and all their social media platforms as well. So it's you know, this is the majority of people are on Instagram all the time. So Instagram is huge in this region. And the media will all post also on social media as well and on their digital platforms. So although print is still quite important for the luxury publications, they all have their digital platforms as well and their social media platforms.
And adverts like Google ads or social media ads, do they pay any attention to those, or is it really more kind of the storytelling aspect of the luxury experience?
The storytelling is very, very important. We do sometimes recommend some media spend to our clients, but not alone. I would say ads on their own. I think you need to tell a story, particularly if you're talking about you know, a beautiful property or a beautiful safari camp, or, you know, amazing itineraries that a DMC might put together, or what's available in a particular destination. I personally I'm not fond of basing your campaign on paid ads. I think paid ads and advertorials can supplement your storytelling of PR, but I think media features, social media stories by influencers, and really telling your story. These are the most important things. If after that you see a Google ad about a story you've read about a particular destination, it might remind you of it, but it should not be the only, form of marketing.
And you mentioned Instagram being the kind of social media platform of choice.
Yeah, Instagram is very, very important in this region. Yeah.
Okay. What about, we've had a question around member clubs. What are member clubs? This sounds ominous. How important do you find visibility within member clubs in the GCC for influencing buying decisions?
Okay, I'm not sure what type of member clubs they are.
Maybe you can just let us know, Claire, and then we can revisit that particular question. You were talking about within 8 hours, you can pretty much get anywhere. So these people obviously have no issue with budget. They're spoiled for choice. They can get to anywhere basically in 8 hours. Why would they choose Africa? What are their perceptions of Africa? What do you hear about Africa with the people that you speak to?
Well, I think that I personally think there still isn't enough awareness of everything that Africa has to offer. I believe that Africa has so much to offer to this market, and vice versa. The GCC traveler is a fantastic target market for African destinations, brands, hotels, etc., safari camps. So I think it's a two-way thing. I think first of all, the shift towards nature and connecting with nature since COVID is significant. Therefore, Africa can offer that connection with nature. It's offering new experiences that they perhaps have not done before. So there's an awful lot to offer. And also you have some amazing cities as well that have a lot to offer in terms of art and culture. So I think it's that combination of really a new destination that some travelers may not have thought of before. Most of them travel to Europe on a very regular basis. A lot of them will travel to Asia on a regular basis. They travel to the Maldives as though it's their back door, so 2 to 3 times a year as a getaway, because that's the closest. It's only 4 hours away. So it's a destination that needs to make more noise in this region, I feel.
Well, Dirk has made the point here in the chat saying expats rely on travel agents based in the GCC. These agents are often very ill-informed on Africa. Work must be done here. And you were talking about not purchasing packages, but I suppose with tailored travel and working through the trade, maybe we can just explore the trade aspect a little bit, because here the trade is a very big component of how we sell travel. So in terms of using the trade, are there workshops? Do you have any trade publications? How, if I was a company or an experience in Africa and I wanted to use your trade networks, how would one do that?
Well, there are just 2 or 3 trade media, not many. But we also offer sales services. In other words, that our team would actually visit all the travel agents, the important travel agents in the region, and talk about your brand. We do online webinars where we train the travel agents on our client's brand, on the brand. So we actually connect with them. We do marketing campaigns with them. So they will actually have combined marketing campaigns. Say, for example, before the Eid holidays, we would put out a marketing campaign together in conjunction with one of the major travel agents or tour operators to promote a particular destination, a particular package or itinerary. So we work in many ways. What we find is that PR and sales work hand in hand. So the PR introduces, the PR stories, the storytelling introduces the destination, the particular itinerary or destination or hotel. So the PR tells the story, the reader becomes interested. We then have the second part of the puzzle is to actually talk to the travel agents so that when the potential traveler says to their travel agent, because a lot of people do still use travel agents, particularly the older generations are still using travel agents. So when the potential consumer goes to their travel agent, and the travel agent tries to push them back to London or back to Thailand, the travel agent can say, well, what about South Africa, or what about Botswana, or what about, offer a different destination. And if that person has actually read an article, they will be more easily converted.
Yeah.
So if that person had already read an article in one of their favorite news websites or travel websites, or seen one of their favorite influencers visiting that country, they'd say, oh yeah, let's do that because I read an article or I saw so and so was there. And it looked really interesting. So I believe it's a combination of different activities that starts influencing the decision-making process.
We've had a question around language barriers. So if you are wanting to attract the local market, obviously not the expat side, but the local market, is there a necessity to learn Arabic, or does everybody speak English?
Well, in UAE, everybody speaks English, in Doha and Qatar as well. In Saudi Arabia, you have a lot of people who do not speak English, so they would only speak Arabic. Saudi Arabia has a much larger population and a much larger middle class. We don't really have a middle class in UAE of locals. There's no middle class, so they're all highly educated. And a lot of them have been educated in the UK or in the States or in Switzerland, and so they're highly educated. However, the Saudi Arabia, you have a much larger population and you have a middle class. And they may not speak English as fluently. I would say that you don't necessarily have to speak Arabic, because I don't think they would expect that. But just perhaps a lot of warmth and help and assistance to try to make sure that they're comfortable. They probably have a younger member of the family with them who does speak English.
Oh yes, they travel in those large groups. That's a good reminder. Thank you, Isabel. Back to that member club thing that we were talking about. Claire said we've previously been approached by VIP concierge and networking clubs for high net worth individuals in the GCC as a way of getting bookings from the market and creating influence by word of mouth. These clubs host dinners, for example, where they claim to promote exclusive tourism products to their networks. I wanted to know if this was an effective marketing tool with any proven ROI, but sounds perhaps not. And I guess tagged onto that, you would need to do several things in that market, not just the one initiative. You would need to do that. You need to do a bit of media. You need to do a bit of social, etc. Isabel, what do you think?
Yes, now I know what you're talking about. They're actually what you're referring to, I believe, are marketing organizations, and the way that they offer their services to put a dinner together for X amount of dollars, and they'll bring 10 people around a table. They're very expensive. You won't necessarily have the right people around the table, even though they'll try to convince you of that beforehand. And as you so rightly say, Natalia, it's not the right way to launch your product or brand in the region. It's far too it's too narrow. You're far better off with the same amount of money. You could do 6 months PR in the region and have a much greater ROI.
Yeah, yeah, especially around the storytelling aspect. Joanna, this is an interesting question. I think I know the answer to it, but Isabel, regarding transport, do locals normally use private jets, or do they travel on business class or first class on commercial airlines?
Both. So there is a lot of private jet travel in the GCC. We have private jet terminals that are completely separate to the commercial airports. Terminals. So it is very big in this region. And all the private jet operators are operating in this region. There are a very large number. Of private jets that are owned in this region. However, a lot of people will still travel in business class and in first class on commercial aircraft as well. They do expect to be collected. It would be very beneficial to have a fantastic meet and greet service, a warm meet and greet at the airport. Limousine pickup with drivers. This is the kind of service they would expect.
Right, it's very useful.
They need things made easy.
Yes. They need things made easy and to feel the hospitality, basically.
Yes.
I represented Abu Dhabi here in South Africa for a few years, and it was notable, kind of the warmth and the hospitality that is provided when you get to the UAE. Just a couple more questions before I let you go, if that's okay, Isabel. Is there like a travel agents association? Is the trade organized there or not really?
I don't believe that there is one that's just focused on this region. I'll be honest, I have a travel agent, a travel trade sales manager who is a lot more knowledgeable on the travel trade than I am. I don't believe there is one. But we hold databases of all the top travel agents in the region and tour operators and wholesalers.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had a couple of questions around food, and you mentioned in your presentation that they are kind of spoilt for choice when it comes to culinary options. Does one have to provide halal food when you are working? Well, certainly with the local Arab market, I would suppose that you do, obviously not the expats so much. Is that a prerequisite?
I would say it's not 100% required. If you would like to focus on having the majority of your travelers coming from this market, like a huge percentage of your total travelers coming from this market, then it would certainly be a great option to include that, but it's not 100% essential.
Okay. We've had a couple of people ask around travel agent databases, and I will say the same of that. I will answer that to say in South Africa that would apply, or certainly in Africa. It would be difficult for you to get a list of travel agents unless there was an association that looked after travel agents in those particular countries. And even there, you would probably get the agency's name. You would not get the individual's name because of privacy laws. So you would be better off, I think, again, trying to work with someone who knows what they're doing and making sure that you are hitting different types of platforms, owned, earned, shared, and paid maybe a little bit later, instead of just trying to blitz travel agents, because there's nothing worse than getting an email out of the cold, as you guys know. They'll just delete.com, particularly if they're spoilt, as Isabel has already mentioned to us. I'm going to close off with a really nice comment that we received in the Q&A folder and let Isabel know, because I know she's a busy lady, and I'm very thankful, Isabel, for hopping on this call with me. And it is from Anonymous. Pity I don't know who Anonymous is, but personal experience, the UAE, Saudi, etc. Clients are far more demanding to work with and please in terms of luxury resorts, likely because their living standard is so high. So Anonymous has said, would you say this is because they know they are a lucrative market and have the freedom to do so, or to be so, Isabel?
It's because it's what they're used to living on a day-to-day basis in their own homes. Therefore, they would find it very difficult to travel to a different country, pay a large amount of money, and not get a similar or better service than in their own home.
Yeah, that makes sense. And sorry, one last question, Isabel, around trade shows. So ATM was held, I think, at the same time
In
as
May.
in May, in the week before. Are there any other travel trade shows that people should be thinking about, or workshops?
No, I mean, Arabian Travel Market, which is always in the first week of May, is the largest travel show in the whole of the region. There have been a couple of small ones popping up in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, but I would say that I do have to say, though, that I come across a lot of destinations who once a year will come to ATM, spend a large amount of money on a stand, man that stand for a week, go back home to their country, and don't do any other marketing or PR activities for the rest of the year. I would say that's a complete waste of money, because at the end of the day, the people at that fair are just all people from the industry. They're all trade people. They're all people from the travel industry, and it's a complete waste of money, to be perfectly honest. So you're much better off if you wanted to come and just walk around the fair and just talk to people. That's fine, but it shouldn't be what you spend your marketing budget in the GCC market on. You're much better off using that money for some real activities that are going to generate a high ROI, whether it's in PR, storytelling, inviting media over to experience your destination for themselves, or trade activities.
Mm. On that note, thank you, Isabel, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for hopping on the call today. We really appreciate it. This is recorded. We will send it out. And to Isabel and the team, thank you so much for the amazing insights that you've shared with us. Certainly a market, or markets rather, that we should be interested in and be working with. And we will also send Isabel's details out to anyone should they wish to get in touch with her. I'm sure she would be glad to help Africa, and I know she has a place in her heart, certainly for Southern Africa. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The Travel and Lifestyle Network is a fabulous group of amazing PR professionals, all specialists in travel and lifestyle from all over the world.
Sharing experiences, knowledge and contacts with similar leaders of the industry, senior experts and independent owners of companies very similar to mine.
Industry is constantly changing, and I think one of the things that I've been so impressed with by my fellow members is their ability to adapt and change as the industries change, both the travel and the public relations industry.
You know, it's sometimes very lonely running your own agency, and to know that you have people who are going through exactly the same thing as what you are going through, to be able to ask them questions and then for them to bring a global perspective on something that you are grappling with in your own local market. So I really enjoy the collaboration that we share.
What's been really rewarding is to see in recent times clients not just coming to one agency but actually coming to the network for a global solution. And I think as we continue to grow and bring really exciting dynamic new members into the fold, that's going to increase on an ongoing basis, and we're really excited about that.
We can go to a client and we can say, oh, we have a sister agency in Australia. Is that a market that you want to target? So it enables us to offer a much broader range of services to our existing clients, and that enables us to help other members within the network.
The key word is sharing. Sharing experience, sharing ideas. This allows us to have a different way we see things.
Me as the founder, like 18 years ago, we were strong believers that only as agencies working together on a global level, first starting of course in Europe, but then trying to conquer the world,